Chords and Coffee, and today we're going to take a look at octaves. But before we get into octaves, I got some really cool stuff. If you don't currently use octaves in your guitar playing, especially electric guitar playing, but even in your acoustic guitar playing, man, you're missing out, because there is a lot of mileage off of this pretty simple technique. I'm going to show you a couple songs, one that'll be more of a quote from a very famous octave song that I promise you at some point in your life, standing on the stage or even just in a jam with some buddies, if you can all of a sudden pull this little tune out, you'll always get a smile from, at least the rock and roll community of guitar players, because it's like, I see what you did. And then there's another tune that's a classic, really cool octave tune. Also, I just want to show you just some approach and some theory. But before we do that, I am using this pour over some homegrown, like from a farm in Mexico. And I want to make sure I say it right. It's from Puebla, Mexico. The name of the coffee farm, they call it a coffee plantation, don't they? Right? Coffee farm, the coffee area is Tatlanalan. And my buddy, Oscar Martinez, and his wife, Marianne, and their son, Misael, I've known them forever. Marianne and my wife are best friends. They go way back. Oscar's a boxer, and he's training Misael to do the same. Very successful at hitting people in the face, but having a gentle spirit about it as they do it. And they enjoy a fine cup of coffee. So I'm drinking. They sent me this coffee, and I am stoked about it. And matter of fact, old Greg and Mike across the hallway were like, don't drink it all, because they want to sip on the savor of the Oscar flavor. Maybe that's the name of the coffee. Anyway, send me your coffee and I'll drink it. So thank you, Oscar. Love you, brother. Octaves. So when we're playing octaves, there's a couple general shapes. There's one shape that comes up every now and then. I'll be honest with you, I never use it. I've never ever met another human being that uses it to the degree that you'll use these other shapes, but I'll show you that one too. The first one, let's just look at this on an A. So index finger on the 5th fret of the low E. We're going to skip the A string, ironically, and then we're going to use our... I use my pinky finger. A lot of people will tell you use your ring finger. That's not wrong. I just feel somehow for this dampening concept that I'm about to show you, pinky is nice. And it's fun to get pinky invited to the party, right? When does pinky ever show up? Hardly ever. Anyway, here he is, right? So pinky on the 7th fret of the D string. You're going to mute the A, and then your two middle fingers, or at least your middle finger, maybe your pinky if you can do it. I can. These fingers are just going to lay gently over everything else. And so if I just pick, I'm only playing that octave, A to A. The next shape, super easy. It's the exact same thing. Just slide it up to the next set of strings on the A string and on the G string. Same deal, right? And then the next one's a little bit different. It's like it got stretched. Index finger's going to be on the 5th fret of the D string. Pinky's going to be on the 6th fret of the B string. I meant to say 8th fret. And then do the exact same thing on the G and the high E. So you've got an A, a D, a G, and a C. Now, here's this other shape. This other shape would be, you would be hitting, like, for example, if I'm playing an E octave, I'm going to have my index finger on the 5th fret of the B, and then my ring finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the A. So I'm skipping the D and the G. And that same would apply if I move everything over to the high E and the D string. So 5th on the high E, and then ring finger on the 7th fret. It's okay. I never use that. I saw that in an instructional video once, and I think the guy said, I never use that either. Let me try this coffee though. Here we go. I do use that. Oscar, here it comes. Tatlanalan. Okay. Boy, Jordan, do you drink coffee? You do? I might share this with you. Might. Hey, if you're sending me coffee, send Jordan a bag of tater chips. He loves chips. Anyway, all right, so what do we do with these octaves? That's great coffee. Well, here's the thing. You can play it with the pick. And what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you a couple of famous songs with octaves But also, I want to, before we do that, I want to show you, I'm going to play this with a major scale. I want to show you two different techniques. Octaves come in really handy for, like, you know, there's a lot of heavy songs where you've got a guitar player playing an octave, especially if you're like got a low string ringing, because you can actually change. I can go from this E major sound here, I can just slide my whole octave back to a G. Now it's an E minor sound, right? The same thing if you take a song like that kind of thing, right? Where you have like a melody that is being played with octaves. It's also great for those of y'all playing on a Sunday morning in your church somewhere. If you've got a melody and you're playing that, whatever, could be just a simple melody. Playing that in octaves, it reinforces it, but it also makes it sound bigger. I was playing a couple of Wednesday nights ago, and me and the other guitar player, his name's Doug. Doug, if you're watching this, I love you, bro. He did a melody on his guitar, and he was playing really high up, kind of in the stratosphere up here. And then I came down low, and I was not that, but playing the octave melody while the other instruments were trucking right along, and it sounds awesome, especially when there's two guitar players and you can double up on octaves or even play a harmony in octaves. But first, let's get these in our hands. I'm going to show you just an A major scale where we're going to play through on this, and I want to show you two techniques. The first one I just showed you already. It's with a pick, and I'm just picking it like I normally would. Put that pick aside. Let's turn our tone down just a skosh here. I'm wide open now. I might turn up just a minute here on my guitar amp and see if Jordan gets mad at me if I'm clipping it all. And I'm going to turn my tone down maybe from like 10, somewhere between 9 and 8. And all of a sudden you get into that kind of Wes Montgomery kind of sound, which for a lot of us, especially if you're my age, that's probably how you even got hip to the idea of octaves initially, right? But there's other stuff out there. I mean, Slash played a really cool octave part in the guitar solo of Don't Cry. Dave Navarro on Red Hot Chili Peppers, the song My Friends from One Hot Minute. That's a deep cut, 1 Hot Minute. He plays a really cool octave solo in there too. And there's a ton of stuff out there. But let's get this A major in our hand. So index finger on the 5th fret of the low E. We're going to skip the A string. Pinky's going to be on the D of the 7th fret. Take that whole sheboing, slide up to the 7th fret. Now we're on a B note, and let's go back here to a C sharp on the 4th fret, same exact shape. So index finger on the 4th fret of the A, skipping the D. Pinky is going to be on the 6th fret of the G. Remember, you're using your middle finger and your ring finger to kind of gently lay across everything else to dampen it. And then same thing, slide it up to the 5th fret and the 7th fret, making that D. And then 5th fret and 7th fret and the 9th fret to make that E. And then now we've got to jump to this F sharp. And so we're going to have index finger on the 4th fret of the G, and then D string, and then pinky is going to be on the B string. Now this is where the dampening gets to be a little bit bigger deal, because now your fingers are wanting to lay flat. So keep them arched and only touch or only play what you're touching. And then slide this whole thing up to 6 and 9. Right, so. And after 6 and 9 is 7 and 10. And that'd be a cool thing to kind of practice. If you can get that in your hands and you can get that awkward transition between that. Once you practice that, then you can start to see little melodies like, if I just go, and also sliding in as opposed to just hitting it dead on. friends, I wanted to tell you first, I have limited availability for private lessons, either here in the store at Palen Music in Springfield, Missouri, or via Zoom online. If you're interested in that, give us a call at 417-882-7000. That's 417-882-7000. Or just shoot me an email at natewhite, NATEWHITE at palenmusic.com. I would love to help everybody I can, but the truth is I have limited availability. So get a hold of me as soon as you can. First come, first serve. Look forward to hearing from you soon. It's kind of a different flavor. And all I'm doing in my mind is I'm playing a simple melody, and I kind of have to, because when I'm playing octaves, I don't have the same dexterity as I do with just single note activity. But what's nice is because of the girth of the octave and how prominent it sits out there in the mix, especially when you're playing with other people. But even you're playing a solo arrangement, all of a sudden it just kind of pops out there like it's its own sort of chord melody. So there's A major scale. I promised you a cool quote. If you're ever doing a jam in E, it'd be really cool if all of a sudden you could go. Little third stone from the sun, right? Jimi Hendrix. That's off Are You Experienced, right? It's been a hot minute for me. Comment below. If I'm wrong, you'll correct me. Love me anyway. All right. So anyway, here we go. We're going to start with this one. And this is a great illustration of how cool an octave is with just a bunch of, 1 root 5 kind of thing. Just, it sounds huge. Also, the next time you're ending a song in E, just come up and go. It's very triumphant. So I'm actually sliding from the 9th and 11th fret into this 11 and 13 on his G sharp note. In this case, and in this case alone, I've got the E string ringing, the high E string ringing, the B ringing, and I'm dampening the D string, honestly, by virtue of my index finger sort of lightly curving over there. Am I thinking about it? No. What I'm doing is it's one of those touch things. How do you practice that? Well, you just practice that by hitting that and until you get that D string to go away. You just got to find where the index needs to lay, right? So I'm going to go, let's reference this in reference to what the index finger's doing. So from 11, I'm going to go down to 9, and then down to 7. So 11, 9, 7, and then back to 9, and then 4, 7, right? All in those octaves, and you see the diagrams there. And then this next part. Now you can leave it all ringing on that because that's all E. And honestly, even up until that point, once you get to that G sharp, I don't know that I would leave them ringing all the way through that. But this next part is C sharp on the 4th fret, up to D on the 5th fret, C sharp, B on the 2nd fret. And again, we're referencing off the index finger. Pinky's just going along with the flow because it's an octave. And then 4th fret and 6th fret, 4th fret on the low E, 6th fret on the D, to 7th fret on the low E, to 9th fret on the D. So that whole thing again. And then pretty cool. That's Third Stone from the Sun. If you haven't listened to that, it's weird. It's a weird little tune, but it's really cool. You should check it out. It's a great, it's a great tip of the hat to Jimi Hendrix. Let me give you one more. Give me one more little cool octaves thing. Chitlins Con Carne. Stevie Ray Vaughan is how a lot of y'all heard it, but Kenny Burrell, and I believe the album is Midnight Blue that has it on there. That's the version that I actually first heard. And it's in C minor, and you got this great. Now this one's a little harder because you've got these leaps, but you can do it. So 3, and again, I'm doing 3 and 5, but I'm gonna reference this just off the index finger. If you can keep that ratio between your index and your pinky, you'll be all set. So 3, 6, and then 3, and then 6 here for this F octave. So I got this C octave to this E flat octave, right? And then this F octave is 3 and 6, 3 on the D string, 6 on the B. And then I've got 5 and 8 for the G note on the D and the B string. And then back to C and E flat, so. And then after you hit that E flat, we're gonna come up here and we're making a C minor 7 chord, but we're really, the point of origin that we're jumping off into this chord is from a C minor 6, right? So you're gonna play with your middle finger on the A string of the 3rd fret of the A. You're gonna skip the D, you're gonna have your index finger is gonna be on the 2nd fret of the G, and you're gonna hammer on with the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the G, while your pinky is on the B string holding down the 4th fret. And I like to... Now this one's the same thing. I hit a wrong note in there. Hey, this coffee's good, but it ain't that good. It can't, help my playing. Maybe now. You only took 2 drinks. All right, anyway, but maybe one more. This one, so it's the same chord. It's at C minor 6, but what's happening in the bass is an F. So it's really kind of got this F7 thing going on. Back to C. Now this part is, and I'm hitting from this F, G, to this A flat, sort of sliding into that from the G, from the F. And then hitting that A flat, and that's going to be on the 3rd fret of the G, and then the 4th fret of the high E. And then back to the G, F, da, 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 da. Now, this brings to light another thing that I do when I'm playing these octaves, is sometimes I'll just actually just pluck with my fingers. Because it's like I want the West thumb thing, but also I'm just so darn used to using my pick and my middle fingers at the same time. Right? That if I just pluck, I can get really clean articulation with those octaves. So I'm just plucking with my thumb and my middle finger. Right? So that's a quick foray into the wild and wonderful world of octaves. There is a lot of activity you can do with that. If you're interested, comment below. I'll show you some other things. I mean, just as a for instance, you can go from like, here's a C major sound where I've got an E note and a C in the bass. But then if I just shift this E to E flat, like changes everything, right? The same thing if I go from this C to this, I can do like this flat 5 thing over a root, like in this case, this A chord. There's a lot of neat things you can do with octaves where you're just outlining a very strong melodic movement with maybe 1 or 2 other notes happening at the same time. Was this helpful to you? If so, hit that subscribe button. Share this video. Comment below. Your comments are what feed the fire and fuel Chords and Coffee every single Saturday morning. We're living life the best we can with the guitar in our hands. Friends, I sure do appreciate you watching, and we will see you next Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time, for another Chords and Coffee.